Hi guys, how you doing? It's me, Sam. Welcome back to another video. So today I'm doing a bit of a geeky video. I'm going to talk about specifications on guitars. I got a comment on one of my videos asking about my Warmoth builds and why I choose the specs to be a certain way. So I figured I'd make a video and talk about it. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is my soloist build. And let's talk about woods to begin with. So when I was thinking about this guitar, I was thinking about having a guitar that sounded very similar to a Les Paul, but was maybe a little more playable and a little more roadworthy. So let's talk about that. So to begin with, this is a mahogany body and a maple cap. And it's a gorgeous piece of mahogany. I'll give you a little close up here. And importantly, the maple cap on these soloists is huge. That's very important for a Les Paul tone. You get so much top end from having a maple cap. So that was important to me. Kind of like a Les Paul custom, I went for the ebony board. And where it's not very traditional to most Les Pauls is I've got a maple neck. And that's about it being roadworthy for me. We just got off the road doing We Will Rock You, the Queen musical, and I used this guitar for the Canadian leg of the tour, and we were doing this leg in the winter, and this guitar was dealing with minus 35 degrees Celsius in the truck, which wasn't heated, so it had a real hard life on the road. That's super cold, and actually the case broke. It was a moulded plastic case that got absolutely smashed to pieces because of that cold. So, you know, going from those crazy cold temperatures to being in the venue at 20 some degrees Celsius, and I can hand on heart say that we did not adjust the truss rod once. So that just goes to show how stable roasted maple is. And it looks incredible. I love the way it looks. I love the darkness. And I think there's something to be said about the tone. I think if you dry out a piece of wood, it's got to be more resonant. That's just a personal belief of mine. Yeah, so the woods, we've got sort of a Les Paul-esque kind of bass, but more playable and more durable for the road, and it's super resonant. Like, I'm not plugged in here, but this thing rings, and I can feel it in my hand. I'm gripping onto the neck. I can feel the neck vibrating. It's such a tight fit in the pocket, and yeah, phenomenal. So there you go, that's the woods. Okay, so let's talk about the Floyd Rose a little bit. This is actually a 1000 series, which is a Korean-made Floyd Rose, and it's been upgraded with some FU tone parts. We've got the big brass block in the back. We've got these noiseless springs. We've got a brass, what do you call it, spring holder. We've got titanium inserts here. These are stainless steel, as are these, and everything here is stainless steel. And let's talk a little bit about the disadvantages of a Floyd Rose first, because there are a few. First of all, changing strings can be a bit of a pain in the arse. It's something you get used to, and it's something you get better at the more you do it, but I think generally it's more of a pain than just a standard you know, Les Paul style system. Let's see here. So if you want to drop D and you've got a floating tremolo like this one, you need a device like a tremolo or something in the back to block it off. So if I drop D'd this, the whole system would move and I'd be out of tune and I'd have to rebalance it, which that's another video in itself. And also, maybe the biggest one, if you break a string on a floating Floyd Rose, and you're playing live, you can't finish the song with that guitar. You need another guitar, which is quite a major downfall, to be honest. But on the plus side, tuning stability is something that's so important to me, and I would say there is nothing better for being in tune than a Floyd Rose. If you'll excuse a little name drop, when we did the Asia and Journey tour in 2017, I actually got to have dinner with Neil Schon one night, and we talked a little bit about the Floyd Rose, and he actually got one of the first 3 Floyd Roses ever made. He's been a big user of them all the way through. I think that first one that he had, the other 2 Went to Eddie Van Halen and Steve Lukather, so he was using them very early on. And he said to me, if you want to be in tune with keyboards, the Floyd Rose is the best. Because, you know, if you've got a Les Paul and you bend a little bit and it gets stuck a little bit and you're playing major thirds, which are notoriously difficult to stay in tune on a guitar just because of intonation and the way frets are put in, you know, you want that major third in particular to be really well in tune when you're playing with keyboards. And that's what the Floyd Rose does for him. And, you know, for me, playing in Asia at the time, Asia is a very keyboard heavy band too. So that's one of the reasons why it was important to me as well. And doing the Queen thing with We Will Rock You, again, there's a lot of keyboards in there, and being in tune is the most important thing. You know, that's what it's all about with keyboards. You've got to be in tune. Other than that, whammy bar stuff like dive bombs and, you know, harmonics and stuff like that. It's a big part of what I do and what I like to do on the guitar. And I also like doing some of those whammy bar, you know, pretend slide licks that people like Steve Lukather and Jeff Beck do. So I really like the Floyd Rose, and I understand that it's not for everyone, but I love them, and it's something that I've got on most of my guitars, and for me it's the best bridge in the world. Okay, so let's talk about pickups. These are the bare knuckle Stormy Monday set, and they're basically like a PAF style pickup. It's low output, and these actually have a little more high end than the Mule, which is another one of my favourite bare knuckle PAF style pickups. And I like the low output because I find it to be more versatile. I find with some of the hotter pickups, it can be difficult to get a good clean tone. If you can start with a good clean tone, then you can muck it up from there later on. So these are great clean. Also, the top end that these have, you know, that little bit of extra treble, really help you cut through. And doing We Will Rock You with a keyboard, a second guitar, bass and drums, that's a lot of stuff to cut through when you're going to play a solo. So that was important to me, to have that little bit of extra top end. I've got a three-way switch here, which is pretty standard. You know, that's neck, that's both together, and then you've got the bridge. And I've got a push-pull here. And what the push-pull does is it splits this pickup. Now, the way that I was running things for We Will Rock You is I was using a Line 6 Helix, which was using an AC30 sim. And I had it cooking. I had everything gunned on it basically, so it was always distorted. And my clean tone was actually, you know, backing off a little bit and pulling this out, which splits this, which gives me less output, which makes the amp a little less gainy, and that's where my clean tone was coming from. So there you go. I like low output pickups, and these bare knuckle Stormy Mondays are just amazing for that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's talk about the neck. So this is Warmoth's standard thin neck shape. I like it. I've got a few others which are exactly the same. I find I can get my thumb over the top and it's not uncomfortably thin. It's a personal thing for different hand shapes, and this one works really well for me. I've got a 10-inch radius on this, which is a little curvier than most people like. And I think the reason why I like to have this particular radius is vibrato. I like to have a little higher action, especially on these two strings where I tend to be doing most of my vibrato, and I find having that slightly higher action from that curvier fretboard radius stops the next door neighbour string going under and getting fretted and making a horrible noise, if that makes sense to you. So that really helps me out, and that's one of the great things about Warmoth, because most guitars like this wouldn't have that option. Like if you looked at a Jackson Soloist or something, it would probably have a compound radius, or at least a slightly flatter radius. So I really like that curvy radius, and it's nice to be able to put that on whatever guitar you want to build. So frets, I've got 6100 stainless steel frets. And I would say having jumbo frets is probably the most important thing specification-wise to me, because it allows me to do vibratos with the technique that I like. I feel really stuck if I've got vintage frets, and I can't play very well on vintage frets, to tell you the truth. So the stainless steel thing is really good because you don't have to worry about getting a guitar refretted. What I will say is I like the guitars from Warmoth to have a little bit of attention done to the frets. I like to have them crowned a little bit, and I like to have them polished. And once I've had that done, they feel really good to me. One thing I would say about stainless steel frets is I am more prone to breaking strings on them. If you think about it, you know, the string has got a very hard life going up against that very hard fret when you're doing vibratos all day long. And that's one of the reasons why I like to get the frets crowned and polished, because I find they don't break as often when that happens. But the nice thing, you know, you get that done, you get it done once, and you're not going to have to do a refret. It's going to last you a long time. So that's the neck. And I think that's sort of about it really, except for maybe a few little bits and bobs. These are just standard Grovers. You don't need to bother with any locking machine heads when you're doing a Floyd Rose. And actually you can put the string in the other way. You see the ball ends are at the top here, which makes a slightly quicker string change. I've got Damasio clip locks on here because I'm a big Gary Moore fan, and that's what he put on his guitars, and I love the way it looks. And actually so many of my favourite players have used these. Paul Gilbert, Steve Vai, there's quite a big list of people who like these clip locks, so I just love the way they look. I've got a little pick holder here. Is there anything else? I think that's probably all of the main specifications that I can talk about. So thanks for watching, guys. Please leave me a comment, click the like button, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.